Father Michael Orsi. I am your host for Action for Life Television, that good news program which brings you the big G for the gospel of Jesus Christ and the little g, all the good things that people do to put that gospel of life into action. Ladies and gentlemen, over these last few months, we've had some opportunities to talk about problems relating to the family. And we know that the family, unfortunately, seems to be an endangered species in our society. There are certainly problems with marriage. We certainly have problems with those people who don't understand what marriage is. Certain people are saying that, maybe you don't need a man and a woman. Maybe you could have two men, two women. Maybe you could have three polyamorphous marriages. Well, I don't think so. Children, a lot of problems with children. And of course, there is the problem of faith. We have a lot of people identifying themselves as nuns, N-O-N-E, as meaning no religion at all. Well, do you wonder why we have problems with the family? There's a great connection, interconnection between marriage and family and, of course, raising children. Today, we have so many children who are so confused. They are morally confused. They are socially confused. And it's leading to a great deal of psychological problems and even depression and even suicide. Well, what we did today is we went out to find a real pro. His name is Bob Petterson. Now, I know him as Pastor Bob because for many years he was the pastor of Covenant Presbyterian Church here in Naples. A great church, a beautiful church. They have a rock-solid biblical foundation. And Pastor Bob, Dr. Bob, tremendous amount of experience pastorally. He's internationally known as a speaker, especially regarding Christian ministries. And he is now involved in a new project. And this new project is called The Legacy Imperative. And he has some ideas that I think a lot of us are going to be very appreciative of, especially those of us who consider ourselves to be senior citizens. We have a job to do for the good of the family. Never sell yourself short, no matter how old you may be, because God has a purpose for you. So, Dr. Bob, welcome. It's always good to see you.
Good to be here. Always good to see you. You're probably my all-time favorite Roman Catholic priest. I love you dearly.
How about that? I'll take that any day. Now, you know why he's on the show. We like each other. I like him a lot, too. We worked together in the past on many projects. Well, Bob, I want to ask you a question. First of all, tell us, what is this legacy imperative?
Well, two words describe it. First of all, legacy. We have been handed down by those who came before us an incredible legacy of faith, of family, of values that come from our Christian faith, our Christian heritage. So we have a legacy that needs to be handed on to the next generations. And it's imperative that we do so. You just share a little bit what's going on in America. Listen, it's a bleak future if we don't do something to pass on the legacy we received from our forefathers and foremothers to the children who are coming behind us.
So a lot of times, people talk about leaving a legacy, and oftentimes it has to do with, I suppose, leaving money to a favorite institution, maybe a favorite school, and we'll call that they left a legacy behind, something that came from them and they want now to give to others. So, Bob, can you tell us about what do you mean by a legacy that is going to be passed on from one generation to the next? Not necessarily money, though it can be, but what about, a moral attitude, a religious faith, a solid foundation in citizenship?
Well, all the way from the Garden of Eden, we have an unbroken chain of people who have passed on what I call the Baton of Faith. We're in a relay race, the relay race of faith. It started in the garden with Adam and Eve, who passed their faith on to Cain and Abel. Cain dropped it, Abel died for it. Seth picked it up. It went unbroken through 10 generations down to Noah. Noah handed it on to his 3 boys. Only one picked it up and carried it on to the next generation. And down through the ages, prophets, priests, kings, ordinary people we will never know until we get to heaven have passed on that legacy of faith, the one true faith, the faith that Jesus talked about when he said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. Nobody can come to the Father except through me. And it's been passed on for 2,000 years through times of war, of tribulation, of ordinary times and extraordinary times. People who died for that faith, and now we have it, and we're losing it. Let me just throw a couple of statistics at you that struck me when I was locked away at a retreat on the Atlantic Ocean south of Boston. I was writing another book for how to write your 5-generation story for your grandkids. And I began to study what was going on, thinking about my own grandkids who live in Washington, D.C. What I discovered is there's 174 million people in America under the age of 40. If separated out, they'd be the 8th largest nation in the world. 152 million of those do not know Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. Only 1 out of 5 high school kids has ever been to church in their lifetime. 15% of all kids under the age of 40 now say that they are self-confessed atheists.
Holy cow. Holy cow. These numbers, they're just like, they're blowing me away because, we usually think that our children, at least the younger ones, are getting some kind of a grounding in the faith. At least they go to church maybe to be baptized. Maybe they go to church. Certainly, we have a lot of Catholic people that come to church at least for their first communion. And I know that a lot of Protestant churches offer Bible study for children, have wonderful programs during the holiday times for children. And you're telling me that this is something that's dying out in our society?
I'm telling you, according to a Wall Street Journal poll last summer, that less than 11% of attenders of evangelical churches are under the age of 30. You don't want me to tell you the percentage of Catholic attenders or Orthodox church attenders are under the age of 30. More than 60% of church attenders in Protestant churches, at least today, are over the age of 50. You do the math on that.
Wow.
We're
kind of in trouble. And maybe you could just tell us. Listen, folks. Pastor Bob has been in church work for like a long, long time, and he's got a nice perspective on this. Pastor Bob, what's happened? Why?
Well, I think this is really important to understand. We have a lethargic grandparent generation, which has given birth to a lukewarm adult children generation, which is giving birth to a lost generation. There are a lot of adult people today who say, I still believe in God, I believe in Jesus, but I just don't go to church anymore. But they had a choice to make that decision. They grew up in the church. So if they walk away from the faith, if they take a vacation from the faith, they can do that. They have a choice they can make. But their children now are not going to church. They're not being educated in the things of God. That's why in high school today, when you talk to teenagers today, only 48% self-identify as completely heterosexual. 83% agree with the LGBTQ agenda. 56% of high school kids today say they would rather be under a socialist system than a capitalist system. We are losing our young people today.
Ladies and gentlemen, you hear these numbers. They are frightening. They're frightening numbers. The children are not going to church. Obviously, their parents are not taking them to church, and obviously, their moral lives are in chaos. You are dealing with certain expressions of sexuality, which are contrary to the Bible, number one. Number two, they're not productive of new people, to be quite honest with you. You get my gist here. And
Right.
the third thing that we have here is young people thinking that socialism is wonderful. It has been destructive in every society that it has been introduced, destructive of human life, destructive of the family. And yet, these are the numbers in our own country, this great United States. Pastor Bob, what
I have
can
some
we
good
do?
news.
Help us.
I have some good news. When I was studying these things, I got so depressed thinking of my own two grandchildren who live in Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. I got so distressed about that. But then I came upon the good news. Are you ready for the good news? Because there always is good news.
You got to give me the good news. I'm getting depressed here.
Okay, here's the good news. The good news is that when asked who their favorite people in the world are millennials and Gen Zs say their grandparents. They love their grandparents more than any other people in the world.
How about that?
Anaheim, California, Anaheim Travel out of California just did a nationwide survey of millennials. And they asked them, who would you rather go on vacation with? Your peers, your parents, or your grandparents? 74% said they'd rather go on vacation with their grandparents.
Holy cow. Why? I mean, I never thought of telling my nieces and nephews, hey, you want to come on vacation with me? It'll be a lot more fun than going with your parents or your friends. Hey, folks,
here's why.
Look, us people, our grandparent age, hey, according to Pastor Bob, we got a lot of friends out there. Young people just love us to death. Tell us why.
Well, here's why. When asked, would you rather go with your peers, your parents, or your friends, they said their grandparents. Now, first of all, obvious number one reason, grandparents pay for the vacation. But it's deeper than that. Your peers expect you to be cool. Your parents expect you to be correct. So your peers are looking at you, whether you're cool. Your parents are looking over your shoulder to see whether you're correct because they're the coaches. I grew up in athletics. I never had a single coach that ever communicated unconditional love to me. I mean, he was there to mold me into an athlete. Parents are there to mold their kids. It was Will Durant, the great philosopher, who said, we get our children at birth as barbarians, and we have about 18 years to civilize the savages. And savages aren't easily civilized. So being a parent, parents are my heroes, it's really tough work. You don't communicate unconditional love. But grandparents are your cheerleaders. They love you no matter what. They used to be the coaches of their children. Now, and one of the things we tell grandparents, in fact, you're no longer the coach of your adult children. You're not your kids' coach. That's your adult children's job. What you're called to be is to be unconditionally lovers of your grandkids, to cheer them on, to have a listening ear, to be there for them. And if grandparents do that, I guarantee you, young people will listen to them.
Hey, look, all of you grandparents out there, I mean, do you hear this? The job that you have ahead of you, or right in front of you, and what you can do for your grandchildren. It's an amazing thing. I've seen this at John Newman High School, where I'm the chaplain. We have a grandparents' day, and when the grandparents come, my gosh, all you see in the eyes of the grandparents and their grandchildren is just love exuding from them. They're just so proud of their grandsons, their granddaughters. You can see the love coming from the children toward their grandparents. It really is a wonderful thing. And so what Pastor Bob is telling us is, I've seen it. It's absolutely true. Okay, now, Pastor Bob, how do we help make this connection between the children, grandchildren, and their grandparents? Especially, these days, they live far away sometimes. Sometimes they don't get a chance to see them that often because of so many other things going on in their lives.
Well, that's what our ministry is about. Our ministry is about helping grandparents connect with their grandkids. Our goal is to reach 10 million American grandparents and to get them trained and equipped. First of all, called. We're in a war for the lives of our kids. We just are. And we're in a war against a great enemy of our children, not just the unseen enemy that we as Christians know about. The Bible says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. But those principalities and power have organized this country through social media, Hollywood celebrities, the school system, to dismantle what we receive from our parents in the lives of our kids and to socially re-engineer them. So what we're telling grandparents is we want to help you get in the battle. We want to equip you in the battle. And then we want to see you have an impact, we just say, in evangelizing and discipling your grandkids. Because I don't know what it is in the Roman Catholic Church, what it is in the Greek Orthodox or the Syrian Orthodox Church, but I can tell you among Protestant evangelicals, only 4% of young people attending Protestant evangelical churches have a Christian world life view, according to pollster George Barna. And if you're an evangelical grandparent, 90% chance that you will have at least one or more kids that have walked away from the faith and 2 or more grandchildren that are lost to the faith.
You can imagine producing this wonderful program, Action for Life. It costs a great deal of money. We're going to need your help. So if you would like to donate to keep this good news program on the air, please go to your computer, your cell phone, actionforlife.net. Thought for the day. I hope that all of you belong to a Christian community. Going to church is extremely important. Why? Because we need the support of other people in order for us to live a good Christian life. Christianity is a community religion. Please worship in your church this weekend. Yes, we know those numbers. They're frightening. But how do you mentor a grandparent to be able to reconnect with their children, with their grandchildren, in order for them to once again come in contact with a biblical worldview and bring them back to the church? Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just any church. Let me be clear about this. You have to go to a church that has a biblical foundation that is going to present to you the truths that are presented to us in the Bible, because some churches, they also have gone politically correct. And all they are is, if anything, social clubs, and sometimes social clubs that send out the wrong message. Okay, Pastor Bob, I got that off my chest.
Okay,
you
that's
respond.
great.
You help us now.
And a lot of churches are also imbibing of the whole woke thing that's going through our world and the Marxist thing that's coming into our culture. But what we're doing is we're saying to grandparents, we want to help you live such a winsome life that your adult children want you in the lives of their children, and your grandchildren will open their hearts and want you in their lives. So the first thing is teaching grandchildren how to have the right attitudes, how to have the right approach. And of course, that's unconditional love. It's persevering love. It's loving your kids. It's so simple. Loving your kids no matter what, even if they're in the far country, to use Christ's parable of the kid who went away to the far country, to be that one person in their life that they know when they're going through crisis, they can come back to that person. It begins when they're children. The earlier, the better. You can't ignore your grandkids and then suddenly appear when they have a crisis as teenagers. You got to start when they're young. So we teach how to love, how to be a cheerleader, how to talk to your kids. That's one of the that's the main thing we do, is teach parents, first of all, how to live. I don't know if you're aware of this, but 5 million grandchildren in America are not allowed to see their grandchildren.
That's horrible. You know, when I hear that, I do have, unfortunately, a lot of grandparents that tell me we haven't seen our grandchildren in years, or they're not allowed to see their grandchildren in years, and they want to know about grandparents' rights. It's got to be a legal thing in some cases.
And sometimes it's because of politics. A lot of it, particularly in the last few, with the polarization of America. Some of it has to do with family dynamics. But a Cambridge University study discovered that 67% of these people not allowed to see, the kids said that the grandparents criticized, they were inappropriate in the way they interfered in the lives of raising their kids and so forth. So we're teaching grandparents, first of all, how to be winsome.
All right, be winsome, grandparents. You got to be winsome. Okay, go ahead. How
to remember they're the cheerleader, not the coach. That's hard to do when you've been coaching your kids for years. To stay out of their marriage, to stay out of their business, to not criticize the way they're raising their kids and so forth. So we teach them how to do these things. So first of all, how to live a life that's winsome before your kids and your grandkids. Secondly, how to talk to them about faith matters. How to tell the story of your own faith walk, how to tell the story of the Bible, the story of the gospel to your kids in a way that's relevant to kids today. And kids today have a lot of questions. So those are the things we're trying to do. We have a hot button issue every Thursday night. We have here in Naples, we tape it. It goes out on Friday across the nation. We've had some 14.5 million people in the last 3 months reading our hot button issue scripts across America. And we've had thousands of people watching, and we're dealing with issues like CRT, LGBTQ, BLM, a lot of the issues that are separating people today, telling grandparents how to talk about these issues with your kids and how to do it in a way that's winsome, how to understand the issues they're facing and to talk to them. I mean, you know, let's face it, our kids are on social media about 11 hours a day. Teachers have them for 6 to 8 hours a day. We have very little time, so they're
getting inundated. They're getting inundated. And
sure.
Sometimes what they're learning in school is just contrary to the Bible. It's contrary to the Bible. And as a matter of fact, I think it's disruptive to the home, oftentimes, what they might be learning in school. But they go onto that internet and they get into certain sites, that they're pornography, chat rooms, they're meeting up with people who are detrimental to their physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. All right, so now grandparents, you know, a lot of us, you know, our age, we don't even know how to work the internet like these kids do. I mean, it's a mystery to me sometimes.
Well, you don't have to. See, we have the one thing that the world can't compete with. We have our love. Nobody can compete with a grandparent's love. Nothing can compete with that love. And when our kids get confused, when they face crises, and they will, because what they're learning in the world is not preparing them to deal with the issues of a fallen world. And when they get those issues, when they face those issues, we want to be there as grandparents. The one person they'll go back to. You remember the prodigal son. 2 things that brought him home. One, he was in the pig pen. The far country did its work. And the far country will always do its work. Most of our kids are in the far country. It will do its work. It will dismantle our kids. But when he was dismantled, the Bible says he came to his senses and then he remembered his father's house. He remembered the love of his father. And so what we're trying to do is produce a generation of grandparents who our kids will remember when the world reduces them to what the world will ultimately reduce them to. And then they'll want to go back to their grandparents. And when they get back to their grandparents, we train them how to talk to their kids, how to love their kids unconditionally, how to be shock-proof when the kid says, I'm coming out of the closet.
Pastor Bob, do you have a program, I mean, not just on, on television, radio, internet, where, grandparents could get something, maybe, because a lot of us are still used to hard copy, that they could read this or be tutored in this?
They can come to our website, legacyimperative.org, to our YouTube channel, Legacy Imperative YouTube channel. But we also do seminars, and if they go to our websites, we announce where those seminars are Saturday night and or Friday night and Saturday seminars starting at 6:30 on Saturday night, taking a break about 8:30, coming back until about 1:30 on Saturday. We go through 10 sessions with all kinds of multimedia because we want them to learn the way their kids are learning.
So they could do this right in their own home. They could do this right in their own home.
Or they can come and get 10 films. They're only $49.95. They can get 10 films on our website, bring them into their TV and watch these 10 films. They're History Channel documentary. They're as good as anything on TV. We think.
And what about, do you give live seminars? Do you get invited to churches to speak?
That's the Friday night, Saturday seminars.
Okay.
In fact, this will be on after the seminar we're having in Naples. But we're having other seminars in Naples. I can give those to you later, and you can make them known to the folks that are watching.
Thank you. Captain Video will do his best to make sure that our audience gets to see what you have for them. Hey, Pastor Bob, it's always a wonderful time that I have speaking with you. As I said earlier, folks, we've worked on many projects together. He's an outstanding Christian gentleman. He has quite a story himself. I've heard it a few times, and he's made an impact on me. And for those of us who are grandparent age, hey, look, the Lord has plans for us. He's going to use us, and he's going to make us better for being grandparents to our grandchildren. Hey, Father Bob.
It's okay.
Pastor Bob. I'm for action.
Grandfather Bob.
I know you're for action, and I hope you are too. God bless you. Father Bob, your grandfather Bob. We would like to thank our generous sponsors for their wonderful support. Thanks for watching. Please join us next time for Action for Life. I'm for action, and I hope you are too. I'm Father Michael Orsi. I am your host for Action for Life Television, that good news program which talks about the gospel of Jesus Christ, the big G and the little g, all the good things that people are doing to put the gospel of life into action. So please join us for the next episode of Action for Life.